Hello and welcome to Views on News. I am Jawad Tehami. In today's program, we are going to take our discussion to important issues. One relates to the condition, the situation with the Muslim minority in India, especially in the wake of the recently held Lok Sabha elections and subsequent victory of the Bharatiya Janata Party and making the government over there under the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Since 2014, what had been the situation for the Muslim minority within India, and especially after this third consecutive victory for Bharatiya Janata Party and Prime Minister Narendra Modi again taking over the reign of the power, what is going to be the likely future of the Muslim minority in India? We'll be talking about that. Also, in the second segment of the show, we'll be talking about the European Climate Monitor statement, Copernicus Climate Change Service, that says that last month was the hottest June on record across the globe. Let's begin with the first segment. We know there had been international concern regarding as to the situation, the condition of the Muslim minority in India, especially after Bharatiya Janata Party came into power back in 2014, getting re-elected back in 2019. The situation for Muslims worsening with every single passing day. Now, Bharatiya Janata Party is once again in power, and as soon as Bharatiya Janata Party became victorious and formed the government in the center, there had been a rise in incidents against the Muslims in India. So far, according to multiple media reports, there have been 13 incidents of violence, particularly towards Muslims and certain other minorities. Also, in the most recent incident in Kolkata, Asghar Molla, who was falsely accused of theft, he was beaten brutally by the Hindu extremists, and that particular incident, surprisingly or ironically, whatever you might like to say, happened just 500 meters away from the police station, and there was no intervention as far as the law enforcement agencies are concerned in that particular incident. Not only this, the number of incidents have been reported from Uttar Pradesh, also in West Bengal, in Gujarat, in Jharkhand. So this particular trend of anti-Muslim violence continues to rise, and there has been an expression of concern when we talk about the Muslim organizations that include Jamaat-e-Islami Hind and Jamiyat-e-Ulama-e-Hind in India. They have expressed their concern regarding as to what the situation for the Muslim is happening right now after Bharatiya Janata Party taking over the reins of power for the third consecutive term. Also, number of activists have signed a joint statement. They have criticized Bharatiya Janata Party leaders for blaming the minority community of Muslims for their defeat. As a matter of fact, we know this time around Bharatiya Janata Party couldn't get those number of seats it was actually aiming for. It was boasting for getting more than 400 seats in alliance with its other parties of the National Democratic Alliance. But this time around, the number of seats it acquired was even far lesser as compared to what it acquired back in 2019. Now, this particular statement by the social activists has also urged the opposition, the parliament, to raise the voice for the Muslim minority and also issue a public statement condemning such incidents. Let me quickly bring in our panelists to talk about this particular issue, a burning issue, in fact, in India, and what is going to be the likely fate of the Muslim minority that happen to be around 200 million there in India. Let me bring in Mr. Altaf Hussain Wani, is Chairman, Kashmir Institute of International Relations. Mr. Wani, thank you very much for your time, for being with us on the show tonight. We really appreciate that. On Skype at the same time, we are honored to have been joined by Mr. Raza Syed. He is Chairman of the Kashmir Council, European Union. Mr. Syed, thank you very much for your time also, for being with us on the show tonight. We really appreciate that. Mr. Wani, what is this that is happening? Do you also see a clear indication of the increase in anti-Muslim violence, especially after the recently held Lok Sabha elections, subsequently Bharatiya Janata Party coming into power once again?
As it was expected, as soon as Janata Party, BJP took the reins in 2014, we saw many communal incidents of violence happening against the Muslims throughout India. It's not for the first time, but it was there. But as soon as we approached to the elections in 2024, it was predicted that there will be more violence as the BJP's election campaign. During the election campaign, the way Modi spoke in public rallies for the first time against the Muslims, it was expected that this violence against Muslims will intensify in India. And it did intensify. As you rightly pointed out, we have seen that from June, the day 4th of June till this date, we have seen at least 10 of the incidents happened where the animal transporters were targeted, and 13 of the incidents against Muslims happened where Muslims were lynched at different places. This is huge number that these incidents happened in the northeast and also in the UP and Jharkhand and other places.
So these incidents that you are talking specifically about, these are the reported incidents. Are there any instances of the incidents that go unreported also?
Yeah, also we there are one of the incidents which happened 2 days back when it was reported by 3 persons, at least on the social media. An FIR was registered against all the 2 journalists and other 3 persons for posting that incident on the social media. Not to talk of the Indian media, which has always taken the turn, they are aligning with these RSS goons who are perpetrating these incidents and who are doing all this. So we know that in the villages, in the far-flung areas where you don't have the reach of internet, where you don't have the reach of other things, where the news is not spread, they cannot do it. The incidents took place and take place and they are not reported. These are the reported incidents from June till date. And this speaks well. Already before that, in March 2024, this 20 UN special rapporteurs wrote to the government of India alarming them on this issue, alarming that we are going to witness an uprise, we are going to witness an intensified violence against Muslims and other minorities in India. The government of India should take steps to curtail that. But we have seen what government of India did, how Modi spoke in the election rallies, how Yogi spoke, and what after the elections. After the elections, we saw one person in Delhi in publicly calling for killing of 200,000 Muslims in Delhi, and nobody took him to the task. Nobody called for his arrest. Neither he was arrested. So what was his name? It's Karnail Singh. Somebody called Karnail Singh. He said that at least 200,000 Muslims in Delhi should be killed so that we can make them out, because these are the people who are spreading the venom in Delhi. So in other parts, the incident which took place yesterday, of which we are talking about, unfortunately it happened in West Bengal, which state ruled by the leftists, and it should not have happened there. But we know the way the Indian government at the center, the leadership at the center is talking about the Muslims, is their speech, their sermons at different places, the hate speech they give, that has encouraged also the police to be on the side of the perpetrators,
that
not
is a
on
very,
the side
very
of
important
the victim.
point. You said these number of incidents which have been reported, these are reported incidents, and even then they happen to be quite higher.
Yeah.
As far as their incidence is concerned since 4th of June. So when we go deeper into understanding how many of the incidents might have happened where there is no internet access to the people, those number of incidents go unreported. You talked about the role of police, the law enforcement agencies. I'll come back to you to take a deeper understanding regarding this particular incident that happened in Kolkata. There was no intervention on the part of the law enforcement. Mr. Syed, now when we talk about this particular trend, do you see a clear increase in this particular trend against the Muslims in India after Bhatti Janata Party took over the power for the 3rd time with Prime Minister Narendra Modi as the Prime Minister for the consecutive record 3rd term? And also, could you identify, are there any specific pockets where this particular anti-Muslim violence is happening post-elections?
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. I think if you can see back in 2014 and 2019, and then again in 2024, the BJP and the RSS, they made the direction for the people, for their voters, for their supporters, and that is based on anti-Muslim, anti-Kashmir, and anti-Pakistan. So it is the duty of the leaders to give the direction to the public on which direction the country will move. But unfortunately, the Modi government has given the direction to the people that it is against the Muslims, against Pakistan, and against the Kashmiri Muslim who are struggling for their right to self-determination. But this election in 2024 showed that the peoples are no more trusting on the BJP slogans or BJP ideology, because they think that they are leading towards the catastrophic situation of Indian state. Because in my opinion, when you are pushing the extremism towards to the against the minorities or whatever, that extremism in any society, it is it destroys the society, and these societies who are based on extremism will never get their right space in the world. And you can
Point is
see
well
that.
taken, Mr. Syed. I seek your pardon for the interjection over here. When we talk about that very rhetoric or the narrative that has been taken along by the Bharatiya Janata Party, its Prime Minister Narendra Modi for 3 consecutive terms, he is now at the helm of affairs over there. When we talk about the pre-election scenario, the election campaign, presumably, we've been hearing voices that it is Bharatiya Janata Party and Prime Minister Narendra Modi trying to get that political mileage in the form of the election outcomes in order to stir that very anti-Muslim sentiment. But once they have capitalized on that particular anti-Muslim sentiment in the election campaign and once again been able to successfully come into power, so why this particular anti-Muslim narrative that they still carry along serves their purpose? To what end after the election does it?
To have as always the BJP or RSS says, the Akhand Bharat, it is to dominate in the region and to bring the Hinduism, Hinduata policies into the practice, that which can give them, especially the Hindus, the civil society, the poor people, that if there is a Hindu state in Asia, it will be the biggest reward for them. But it is not, because the policies which Modi is following, in my opinion, it is destructive, and it will end in disaster for India. And the Indian civil society is giving their voice, and the people are starting to learn that the slogans and whatever the Modi and RSS or BJP is saying, it is isolating India in international forums, and it will not bring the peace and stability and the prosperity for the poor people in India. That's why I think the people are going to change the minds. And you see in these elections what they're, okay, the BJP and the group, they got majority, but not as 2019 and 2014. So it shows that the people, they started thinking about that where the Modi government is leading to India, because it is not what the people of India likes, what the people of India looking for, the prosperity, the jobs and other things, but it is the fake picture they show to the world and to the people that there are a lot of jobs, but up to 400 million people they are living under the poverty line in India. India should think about their own people, but the conflict which they want to have with the Pakistan, and they are spending the billions of dollars on defense, and what they are doing, 1 million soldiers in Kashmir. What is their purpose? Because if they say that Kashmir is calm and there is a normal situation, why the 1 million soldiers are staying there? What they are doing? So it means it is not the stable in Kashmir. The people, they are not with Indian, what their propaganda is saying, and they are showing to the India, to the international world also, that we are not with Indian state. We want our freedom. We want our rights,
That
basic
inalienable
rights.
right to self-determination. Mr. Syed, your point is well taken. Let me proceed once again to Mr. Wani. Mr. Wani, the role of law enforcement, and especially in this particular case that happened in Kolkata, 500 meters away the police station happens to be, and there is no intervention at all. And that is the issue that's been talked about by the heirs, the family, that why there wasn't a police intervention at all.
See, we have seen it's not for the first time that police had not intervened in such cases. We have seen before, even though this incident, they have put the person after attack near the police station. Police did not intervene. Police did not provide any help to that person. The life could have been saved. But we have seen before that even in the presence of police, the goons, the BJP elements and the extremist elements, they do all these things in presence of police. 2 days back, we see a doctor in UP, when he was stopped, he was stopped in open daylight. Everybody was looking there. You could see the large force agencies, police there, but nobody stopped them until they attacked that person and he was down. And similarly, we have seen 2 days back, after that, before that in Jharkhand, and Masjid Imam, when he was coming back from mosque, again accused of the same theft, and he was also attacked there.
So with this particular trend,
So
the
this
Bhatti
trend
Janata Party,
sees particularly that they all the Indian law enforcement agencies we see in Kashmir, the military, the police, the judiciary, all others, they are in alliance with the political government, complacent to the political government, is in the whole of India.
So who is going to hold all of them accountable? They haven't given any heed, as you already mentioned about the UN rapporteurs. Also, there have been multiple international organization reports highlighting this particular aspect of what.
I tell you, in 2000, recently a report was about 2023, what happened in India by what we call at Hate Lab, Washington-based Hate Lab. It says how it is going in India, and how this hate speech by the BJP leaders are provoking this violence against the Muslims, the mob lynching, the cow vigilantes and others. But nobody is taking cognizance of this. We have seen the US State Department, we have seen the Amnesty International, we have seen the Human Rights Watch, we have seen the Foreign Affairs Committee. They all called to halt these and to bring perpetrators to justice. But what we saw in India, not only that, these perpetrators are set free. Even those who have been accused by the lower courts, now the higher courts and the Supreme Court of India sets them free. Like those who raped the Bilkis Banu case, the famous Bilkis Banu case, they were set free. And likewise, in Delhi, Hindu-Muslim violence which happened after CCA implementation, and all the Muslims were put behind the bars, and all those Hindus who perpetrated that violence, they are set free, and they are being garlanded by the BJP leaders, the top leadership of BJP. So when
What about the opposition? What about the opposition in the parliament?
Opposition
And
in the parliament.
They considerably had a very improved performance this time in the Lok Sabha elections. Also, the trend back in 2014 and then 2019, Bharatiya Janata Party grabbed itself a lot of seats.
Only one opposition leader in India who had gathered the courage to challenge the Modi's extremism and this Hindutva ideology was Akhilesh Yadav in UP. And there we saw he showed the dent to the BJP there. The Muslims voted for him and there was BJP. But all other political leaders, I think, in different ways, except for the Mamata Banerjee, they are complacent. They don't speak freely on these issues. They fear that they might lose their constituencies in different parts of India by these the Hindu voters. And so that has been like a trend in India. We saw that we were thinking that this election will be the contested on the basis of the Modi will say, I have done this, in case of development.
Your point is well, unfortunately, we are short of time. I'll have to go to the second segment. But before heading towards the second segment, Mr. Syed, your quick closing comments as to, you already talked about the trend as to the mindset of the people in Indian society changing, especially when we have seen the in the manifestation of the number of seats this time around Bharatiya Janata Party has gotten as compared to back in 2019 and back in 2014. But haven't we seen the space for the civil society shrinking considerably with the passage of time? Also, we see there is a joint statement that has been signed by a number of activists asking the opposition to condemn these incidents and also talk about these incidents in the parliament. What about the space of the civil society? Do you think with the third consecutive term in power, Bharatiya Janata Party won't allow the civil society to actually function in its true spirit?
I think the Bharatiya Janata Party cannot stop the civil society move, because the world is watching. And you know, when the Genocide Watch president has said that India is moving towards the genocide of Muslims and genocide of Kashmiris. So I think the civil society got up, and they will succeed, in my opinion. It will take time, but I think they will prevail, because the extremism and the Modi policies cannot go forward as they wish, because the world is watching. And as Wani Sahab said, there are reports of different organizations.
The world keeps on watching. The international organization keep on releasing the reports, expressing that very alarm and concern. But also the United Nations has been also talking about. But despite all that, there hasn't been any sort of a concrete measures, especially when we talk about the responsibility of the international community. So what's the point of the world simply watching and seeing? Shouldn't there be any concrete measure to be put in place?
I think the time will come. Time will come when the international community will put the certain conditions. But wait and see, because you know, today's world, the interest is for the market and for what the West wants India to become there, because of China, Ukraine war, Middle East war, all these things. India is profiting from that situation, and they continue, but it will not continue.
Mr. Ali Raza Syed, Chairman of the Kashmir Council, European Union, joining us on Skype. Thank you very much for being with us on the show tonight. We really appreciate that. In the studio, we were joined by Mr. Altaf Hussain Wani, Chairman, Kashmir Institute of International Relations. Mr. Wani, thank you very much for your time, also for being with us on the show tonight. We really appreciate that. With that, we come to the end of the first segment, and after a short break, we'll be back with the second segment, and we'll be talking about the hottest month that has been recorded so far, June, and the impacts of climate change around the globe. For that, stay tuned. Hello and welcome back to Views on News. Last month was the hottest June on record across the globe. That has been said by the European Climate Monitor, Copernicus Climate Change Service, which goes on to say, let me quote, every month since June 2023 has eclipsed its own temperature record in a 13-month streak of unprecedented global heat. This is more than a statistical oddity, and it highlights a large and continuing shift in our climate, unquote. And June, that has marked the 13th consecutive month for the record high global temperature, surpassing 1.5 degrees Celsius threshold above the pre-industrial levels. This particular statement also talks about the record sea surface temperatures and its relations with the temperature in the atmosphere and what sort of implication that leads into. We have seen some very catastrophic climatic events happening in the recent past, specifically talking about Pakistan being the victim of climate change and those floods of biblical proportions back in 2022. There have been floods across the globe in various regions. There have been wildfires, and there have been other climatic events that have been disrupting not only the routine lives of the common people, but also economies on the larger scale. Let me quickly bring in our esteemed panel of guests who are joining us in the studio to talk about this important issue. Mr. Munir Ahmad is climate change expert. Mr. Ahmad, thank you very much for your time, for being with us on the show tonight. We really appreciate that. Also in the studio, we are honored to have been joined by Talha. Tufail Bhatti is the environmental scholar. He is heading Strengthening Regional Climate Resilience Program at the Institute of Regional Studies, Islamabad. Talha, thank you very much for your time, also for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. Mr. Munir Ahmad, now this Copernicus Climate Change Service says last month was the hottest June on record across the globe. There has been a 13th month consecutive streak. We saw a continuous rise in temperatures. Firstly, what does this particular statement actually depict about the changing trend of the rise in temperature that has been continuous in the recent past?
Jawad, thank you very much once again, discussing climate change issue. This report is another endorsement that there are so many disastrous incidents are ahead. After IPCC reports and other reports, I believe this is again the facts are very alarming, and now it depends on the main actors of the world, especially when there is a COP ahead in November. We shall decide the fate of the planet Earth. If we have to immediately start cutting down our carbon emissions and taking care of the restoration of habitats and natural resources.
Mr. Ahmad, I seek your pardon for the interjection over here. When you talk about, whenever we get to talk about climate change, the disastrous climatic events happening in various regions across the globe, the urgency of immediately cutting down the carbon emissions. I mean, how is it possible to cut down carbon emissions immediately? I mean, with the economic system running on the very requirement, the burning of the fossil fuels, also more population rising, with more demand also increasing day by day. So how is this immediate cut in carbon emissions is possible practically?
Jawad, we have alternate technologies and alternate solutions. It is basically adaptation of those mechanisms, those systems that will help reduce the carbon emissions. Second point that I mentioned is restoration of habitats and natural resources, and they are very much pivotal to combat such kind of situations. Unfortunately, we are not investing in adaptation, especially like those in those countries which are more vulnerable, like Pakistan and the African countries. I don't know, but I believe the people, those who have earned money in the industrialization of their countries, and they need to invest from their savings.
Okay, so there is no And there is no going back from industrialization. With the rising
Yeah, that
population,
is-
the economic system has to be sustainable, it has to survive to meet that growing global demand in various fields. So for that we need to have the sources of energy, the industrialization has to continue, right? So when we talk about the alternate energy sources, there could be the renewables.
Yeah.
For example, when we talk about the solar energy, I mean, there has to be a technology that is required for that. We've got to have the solar panels, we've got to have the supporting accessories for that also. They have to be manufactured also, right?
Of course,
So-
they also need like energy to produce.
So
something.
isn't it a paradox? Let me take this point to Talha. Isn't it a paradox? Okay, so to keep manufacturing running, to keep the industry running also, we need those sources of energy. Let's suppose we are able to transfer or transition towards the renewables or other sources of energy. More specifically, when we talk about the solar energy, right? So we need to have the solar panels. It's supporting accessories also. For that, we have to do the manufacturing also. For that manufacturing, we also need energy, right? So, I mean, it seems a kind of a paradox. How does it operate, the transition from the conventional sources of energy to the alternative sources?
Well, thank you so much for such a wonderful question, I must say, because this is a paradox. We believe that whenever we go for energy transition, we are just sustaining our old habits with the new tools, and they actually produce a lot of waste in the coming years. Like a panel you buy today is going to be expire in next 20 to 30 years because we have then better technology.
So
and
there is a
state
cost on its manufacturing, and
Yeah.
then when it becomes a thing of a waste,
Yeah.
there has to be some cost in order to get away with that also, right?
Yeah.
Am I correct?
And just wanted to add into this information that Pakistan is one of the largest receiver of the waste, electronic waste in the world. We actually consume a lot of that waste and turn it into, we mine it for the gold and for the silver. But to be honest, I agree with you that it's a paradox that we believe that we are inventing new tools for the old habits. We cannot, the earth cannot sustain it. The report you mentioned is just like the holy grail to climate science. Because in North America, we have WMO, World Meteorological Organization, and in the Europe, we have that organization that usually translate complex climate science into the words which simple man can understand.
Right.
And in that scenario, which you have mentioned, that Earth is actually in the 12th hottest month ever recorded in the last 150 or 70 years. We are in that kind of sphere. So we are in uncharted water territories. We don't know what to do. The best case scenario which we believe we can do is to transfer our energy sources to renewable capacity, so that we can actually buy some time, because eventually this threshold about 1.5 which set by the Paris Agreement is a scientific limit, but people take it as a political one. The best case scenario, Guardian recently published that around the world, climate scientists like ours in Pakistan believe that the best case scenario we can achieve in 2100 is 2.5 degrees centigrade. So it's way more than we actually imagine right now. So I believe in
the
this.
reduction to 2.5 degrees Celsius by 2100, is
Yeah.
that what you are saying?
Yeah, that is
Okay.
what I'm saying, because currently that is what I'm coming from, because
So that much of reduction, I mean, that 1.5 degree pre-industrial level, that has been hasn't been achieved so far, despite all that talk and that whatever is happening around the world in form of the conferences and so much talk about this particular issue and the kind of effects that we are also seeing across various regions. So by 2100, reducing it to 2.5 degrees pre-industrial levels, I mean, how is that doable?
just wanted to, I think there's a misunderstanding.
Okay.
I'm telling about that the best case scenario the
Okay.
world global climate scientists can achieve or can think of, it's the 2.5 degree
Okay.
above the pre-industrial level.
Okay.
So it's above 2.5 no
Okay.
matter what we do, no matter how we do, or no matter how much we do.
Okay.
The only currency we have today is the scale and the time.
Okay, even in that scenario, 2.5 degrees Celsius above the pre-industrial levels. So what are going to be the possible manifestations of that increase? I mean, from 1.5 to 2.5 degrees Celsius increase, of course, until 2100. So that is the best case scenario that you think
Yeah.
that the scientists could actually put a cap on, if I'm perceiving it right. So even that shift from 1.5 degrees Celsius to 2.5 degrees Celsius, what are going to be the manifestations as far as the climatic events around the globe is concerned?
It's already right in front of you. Recently, EMDAT, the world, that is the organization which actually calculates the natural disasters around the globe. And they actually published a report for 2023, and in which they said that we have 399 disasters only in 2023. We actually lost around $236 billion for the climate bill. It's not only happening in Pakistan, it's happening all around the world. Now, there is a study published in Nature recently which tell us by 2050 this loss and damage would be 38 trillion to the economy of the global economy. 38 trillion is a big number for the economy like ours. We can be like, we can disappear from the map.
By 2050?
By 2050.
$38 trillion,
$38 trillion
of losses to the global economy.
Yeah.
Isn't that humongous, Mr. Munir Ahmad?
Of course, it is.
I mean, is it simply jaw-dropping? I mean, I just can't even fathom the severity of the situation associated with the economy on the global level and the kind of repercussions it would have for the commoners.
Certainly, that is why we are facing so many, very a severe economic recession in many of the countries. On the other hand, during the last 1.5 years, the Ukraine war impact, that is also coming out, that almost like 1/4 of the global staple food we have destroyed. So we are putting a lot of money into wars as well. So that has its impact as well, because the money is not spent on the development of the resources, or to combat the challenges of the climate change. We are not investing to secure our staple food basket, So these are the things that we have to prioritize, what objectives we are really on to. Otherwise, as Talha said, this year it is like the estimate is
let's
3.8
consider.
trillion.
Here is the scenario. Okay, let's consider COP29 that is going to be held in November, if I'm correct about it. So, okay, so let's talk about this, the starting point. COP29 being the starting point when the world leaders are going to sit together, deliberate upon as to what the climate has been doing in the recent past and how to go about it in the immediate terms. What would be the first point that you would suggest to the all world leaders if they give heed to that very particular suggestion, where to actually start from in order to reverse that impact of climate change?
Firstly, they have to take serious note of the changes that has been happening around and the research reports. Usually, the developed world countries, they come to the conference of parties, but they really do not make any tangible commitments or honor the commitments whatever they make. First of all, they really need to be serious about it, and secondly, they need to invest on the adaptation of what kind of infrastructure that we need, certainly like energy efficiency, and we have to put more money on renewables, and we need to cultivate the potential of our other resources. They are more, we need to invest in.
Okay, so the temperature keeps on rising. The record temperature is noted. Now, to bring it that immediately, what sources should or could be immediately slashed right away that are adding to global warming? Starting from number 1, 2 to 3.
Certainly, I cannot say really, but in my opinion, the industry should take their carbon emissions. Once again, I will come to that. And secondly, we need to reduce our consumption. consumption of energy resources, consumption of food, so that our planet could sustain. On the other hand, the third point that I would refer to is reducing the waste as well, all types of waste. If we could be able to take urgent actions on these 3 points, I believe at least it would be the beginning. Thirdly, we need to take care of the vulnerable nations and the hotspots, and how we can make their lives a little more secure from the forthcoming disasters.
Your point is welcome. Quick last comment. In one sentence, Talha, unfortunately we're short of time, which source do you identify could be dealt with in order to go in the right direction to stop that rise in global temperature immediately?
Just tax wealth tax, put the money where the mouth is. Secondly, stop fossil fuel, new rigs for the fossil fuel, new wells for the fossil fuel. Just stop it and make sure that fossil fuel industry reduce its extraction of oil. Just these two.
Talha, Tufail, Bhatti, environmental scholar, heading Strengthening Regional Climate Resilience Program at Institute of Regional Studies in Islamabad. Thank you very much for joining us. And Mr. Munir Ahmad, climate change expert, thank you very much for your time also, for being with us on the show tonight. We really appreciate that. With that, we come to the end of today's episode. Till the next one, take good care of yourselves.